Welcome to the Take 92 podcast. My name is Sammy Warm Hands. I'm your host, and today I am thrilled to welcome back to the show one of my favorite singer-songwriters, as well as one of my oldest friends, Leo London. Leo is a very prolific artist, much like myself. I haven't had him on here in about 4 years. That was 50 episodes ago or so. And so he's got a lot of new releases to talk about. We're going to talk about The Domestics, his collaborations with Haley Johnson, and 4 new EPs. This is Leo London. All right, let's do it.
I'm game.
I listened to our last
episode.
Yeah?
How did we do?
It was enjoyable because we talked a lot about stuff I forgot just from like when we were little kids and stuff. And
yeah.
What surprised me, though, is that was 4 years ago. And you and I, we both crank out songs like crazy. And so what surprised me was the amount of material that has accumulated since then. So I had a fun late night homework session yesterday, diving through all the stuff. When you were here, we were talking about The Needle Exchange in the Stars.
Oh, yeah.
Which was just about to come out. And that was a fantastic record.
Thanks.
I love it. Very introspective, sad guy stuff, which I am all about, you know?
Yeah, I haven't re-upped that record yet, so I feel a little, it's got a lot on the table.
I was wondering about that because there's a gap in your Bandcamp from 2013 all the way up until 2020 where the middle era stuff isn't there.
Yeah, that's, part of that was being in the Domestics for 5 years.
Oh, and so everything going through that channel?
That was part of it. And then the distribution company that I went through to upload all of that material, including the Domestics and Needle Exchange and the record I did with Haley Johnson, that company went defunct. So everything got pulled from streaming services. And at the time, I didn't have the money to re-up anything, So.
Well, that sucks. Yeah, you've paid for each of those releases, and now you got to do it again.
Yeah, well, it's the wonders of the digital age.
Yeah. A month or so after that episode and that record came out, we wound up playing both at the Whitaker Block Party.
Oh, yeah.
You gave me a copy of Montgomery Park, the EP that you just mentioned with Haley Johnson, and that is maybe my favorite thing that you've ever done. And I was lucky enough to see both of you at the Hi-Fi around the same time and see you play some of those songs together. And man, I just was so impressed. And I was totally unfamiliar with her. How did you guys link up? How'd you come across her?
So I met Haley at Dante's in Portland. She was hanging out with my partner at the time, Mike Finn. Yeah, I don't know. I just kept her name in the Rolodex, and I've always liked to write songs, in a female perspective. And I think we were both having a slow moment in our careers. Like the Domestics had dried up.
Yeah,
we became really good friends. So it was just sort of, was it happenstance?
Yeah. Well, and first of all, it's interesting to me that on a solo record, you would have. It's almost like a rap record where you're like, I'm going to have features on half the record, right?
Yeah.
But they were all for the same person, which is kind of neat. Like it almost feels like a duo record to an extent. But there's I think 4 songs in a row in the middle of that. Temporarily Your Girl, Another Woman, In This Life, Acid Rain in Hollywood. It's just like, God damn, does this dude keep getting better, or what? It was another one of those to me that was kind of like a level up record where I'm like, gosh, they cut so deep and her voice just elevates the songs and they had a lot of heart,
Thanks. Well, so I am planning on re-releasing it and it'll be a little bit different. I think that what I want to do, Haley and I also recorded a Christmas song together. I know people cringe when you say Christmas song, but it's a song.
Like a sad one, though.
It's like the same way that what's that Bruce Willis movie?
Die Hard.
Die Hard. Yeah, it's like that kind of Christmas song.
Yeah, it barely counts.
Yeah. It's just if I changed one lyric, it wouldn't be a Christmas song. But anyway, so we do have that, and I was thinking about remixing, maybe adding some drums and some bass and stuff to the songs to
nice
pep them up a bit. because I still have all those stems. It was really interesting how we recorded that too. I'm going to butcher Scotty's name. Scotty Meiji. He works with Ural Thomas. He's a dude up in Portland, has a studio. That's where Haley and I tracked all of the vocals and piano, and Michael Finn played some Wurlitzer, and then I had those tracks, and then I fleshed them out with, Ryan Neighbors from Help.
Mm-mm.
I've been trying to get your guys' bands to talk because I think that you'd really like. I think that they work really well together.
Nice.
They're a hardcore, very highly politicized band, Anyway,
I know something about that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but also he's a synth guy. I used to play in Portugal, the Man, and had a band. I don't know if they're still playing, but Hustle and Drone. Anyway, he did some of the kind of spacey keys and stuff on that, and I don't know, just kind of reinvestigate it. I was driving to LA a couple weeks ago, and every time I plug in my phone, was trying to get out of LA. I can't remember. Acid Rain Hollywood.
Yeah,
that comes on.
Oh, because it's A.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. Ange has one of those in the car. She's like, I don't even listen to Smashing Pumpkins. Why does it always start with the Smashing Pumpkins? I'm like, because all this shit is imported from mine.
It's an anti-Apple thing, but I just wish that it just wouldn't play anything when you plug in your phone.
Yeah.
I had to delete some stuff. I was just like, I'm not going to listen to that every time I get into my fucking car.
Now, last year on my record, Stolen Songs 4, I recorded a song from Montgomery Park in this life.
Oh, I remember.
What is that like on your end? I've covered a lot of people's shit, and sometimes people I know, but I don't know. I can't imagine
it made
you
me
probably
feel
get a ton
great.
of cover songs.
Yeah, no, it made me feel awesome. It made me feel like, really, I feel like more and more in my life, I want to move into writing songs for other people to sing.
Yeah.
Aging out or whatever when it comes to the music field. They like the young bucks.
Yeah.
And trying to find a place to stand. So, it made me feel really special. And I liked that song, too. I thought it was a great song choice for you. I thought it was... Did you transpose it at all, or was it just in the same key? Because it was a good key for you.
Well, I took it up was the thing, because we both have a lower register at this point in our lives, and so I was hearing what you were doing, but my guitar playing style doesn't really lend itself to that finger style playing. And so when I was playing it my way, I was like, nah, this needs to really kind of be belted out. And so I don't think that I changed the key. I just changed the vocal register and did it an octave up. But
yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, it was fun.
That old Travis picking, I try to get away from it because I do it so much. It's kind of like my lean-to if I'm writing. And at a certain point, it's like, oh, this whole record just kind of sounds the same, doesn't it?
That reminds me of a John Mayer record. He had this brilliant song on it called Stop This Train. It was like a really big breakthrough record for him. He won the Grammy and all this shit. And then the next record, he had a song with the exact same strum pattern and almost chord progression, but in a different key. The other one was about, talking with his dad about coming to terms with mortality and this really heavy shit. And this other one was just like, sometimes I like to get stoned and do-do-do-do. He's just like, I'm like, you are just bullshitting like a freestyle over the same song and ruining it, It's funny to me because we'll notice that shit in our own stuff. And I'm like, oh, I hope nobody noticed that. But that's where my mind immediately goes of like, oh, I hear you guys doing the reusing your tricks.
Oh, it's like Die Hard 2.
Yeah, it's the same movie, but in an airport. Yeah. Now, you were talking about the Domestics kind of fizzling out. In 2019, you guys did release a song, Inside My Mind.
Oh, yeah.
Is the band basically done? Because, around that time, you started launching beauty contests, which ended up being an album, but I think was going to be a new band, right?
Yeah, there was a band. Members of the Domestics were in that. So to finish that, the Domestics are done, not on bad terms at all. I just talked to Mike yesterday, but
nice.
Those guys are my brothers. I love them. Yeah, so beauty contest, we had our first show 2 weeks before COVID hit.
Oh man.
And that was it, you know. And it was a cool band. A lot of great personnel in that band, and we had stuff booked, you know. And it was like, and then there was going to be doing the record, and you know, really trying to pitch, you know, try and get some label interest or something like that. And you know what happened with all that to all of us.
At that time, when you guys played your first show, they hadn't actually been in the studio with you recording yet.
No, that was that.
was like-
I tracked all that. I play all the stuff on that record.
Okay, I wondered that because I was like, so
Yeah.
is this that band or is this just him after that blew up?
It was gonna be more of a band, but I mean, it was. I generally do like the live band thing. Even with the Domestics, there's only a select songs that actually were the whole band.
Yeah.
It was me and Michael doing all the stuff in the studio.
Yeah.
Multi-tracking, but
I get it. I mean, that's even how
it's just
GFS
cheaper.
is. It's always just been two dudes playing everything, and
Right.
then we find someone to play shows. You know, like it's just-
Exactly. It's cost effective. I think quality control insinuates that there's going to be an issue with somebody's playing, which is not what I'm saying, but it's just, especially because I go in the studio, I have everything arranged. You
Yeah.
know,
You know what
at
you
least
want.
mentally, you know. So then, like, I can go from one instrument to the next, and I can just knock the shit out.
There's something about having, even like we were talking about, if you want to use a featured singer or something like that, like there's something to be said about not just getting the talent, but getting the right talent for the right song.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've had like I was just talking about, a rotating cast of live bass players in the band that almost none of them have played on the recordings because what they're bringing in their own style is great, and I love it in their projects.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not what I would want to be on the record. You know, like we had Eric Munch come and do the last record.
Yeah.
Because he is not only a great player, but he's been such a producer his whole life that I knew that he would get like, okay, this is how we want to do it though.
Well, and I mean,
you
and
know.
also, I mean, like you and I have the luxury of knowing Eric Munch for 20 plus
Yeah.
years or something. You know, it's just there's a certain amount of history there. I get, you know, trust.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Because ultimately, you've got to be able to collaborate in those environments if you're coming into someone else's record, you know. And he was brilliant at that. Or like right now, we have one of our old members, Ben Polanski, back in, and he's very willing to give his opinions, which is awesome, and also, you know, fall back when needed, and
Yeah.
you know, we kind of come up with the best version of the thing. But so often it's much easier to just be like, you know, I know all these parts.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
can do them.
You don't want some young guy coming in swinging his dick around, you know? I know what's up. I wrote it.
Yeah.
I remember, here's a good story. One time we were recording a Domestics record, and we were working with Tucker Martine, and he and Mike had worked together for many years. We're having this long conversation with each other about, like, well, what if we, like, bounced the vocals from Leo's demo into the box? Could we like do that? Like, and I was like laying on the couch, and I was just like, I'm the same fucking guy.
I could sing.
that's saying it. Why don't you just throw a microphone up and I sing the song I wrote? You know.
Yeah.
So we did that, and it was fine. But you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, I think you get into like producer engineer mode and just playing the desk instead of playing the instruments or the songs. You know.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. Now, the album itself, Beauty Contest, there are tracks on there that sound like kind of quintessential Leo London. I wrote down a couple titles here. Candy Cigarettes and Everything You Touch. I think those are both like, could have come off the self-titled record or something like that, you know, just got that great feel. But overall, it feels like the record may be intentionally a little more abrasive, or you know, did you have a different goal in mind for Beauty Contest? Like, okay,
Yeah.
we've done this with the Domestics. This thing's going to do its own thing.
So it's an uneven record, and I've grown to love it. I really didn't like it for a long time, but I've had some input from people I trust. They're like, no, it's not that bad of a car crash. It's okay. So I'm like, okay, I'll live with it. But, you know, I think that it's uneven because there were certain songs that were supposed to be domestic songs for a third Domestics record that never came to be. There were some tracks, I think, that were from some of the EPs. The middle four which are two of the ones you mentioned. I tracked with Justin Chase, who is an excellent engineer, at his space. And then I had all these demos that I tried to like turn into songs. And this was my first time trying to do, the songs that Justin didn't record that I was trying to do entirely myself. And I was aiming for a much higher fidelity than I was capable of.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of sonic experimentation that I had no idea how to mix. I mean, like so many drum machines and samples and I come from a pretty traditional sort of background.
Yeah.
So I can hear how a guitar needs to sit in a mix. I didn't know what to do with 808.
Yeah.
know?
Well, you did have some of that, and maybe not as a mix engineer, but it does sort of have a logical through line from Little Darkness, though, that there were maybe 2 or 3 more experimental songs on that record, tape loops and other sounds that you hadn't really done that much.
Sure.
But this just seemed like kind of, let's kind of grab that and keep going in that direction.
Yeah, I think I went too far with it. There was a follow-up record that I abandoned.
Oh, really?
And that really leaned even harder into that sort of, I don't want to say house, but like, I was definitely like, well, what are these young kids doing? Let's see what yeah. So I think that there was a moment, and I think it was about the time that I left Portland, where I was like, I think I had like a series of, noisemakers and what do you call those little clicky boys? PMC.
The MPC.
MPC.
Clicky
that kind
boy.
And I was just like, this is like a dinosaur trying to I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
So that was around the time that I moseyed down to Nashville and tried to figure out, reinvestigate who I am as an artist, which sounds really pretentious, and I apologize, but like.
No, dude, I get it. Sometimes it's like we go so far in one direction. It's like, okay, I've done all of this that I can do.
More than
we
I
got to
should have.
start over. I do want to ask about the track listing here, though, because it's an interesting set list in that now we do get a full band version of In This Life, which is cool. And then we get, I believe, the same recording, if not even the same mix, maybe, for the closing song from Montgomery Park.
Yeah, I think the only difference is there's an amp modeler on the Rhodes. I mean, I tried to retrack it and I couldn't do it, because there's some. And by the way, I think that's my favorite song on the record, and Martin did a great video for that. But that was just one of those moments where I feel like I hit a tip, and I was like, this is as good as it's going to get. And it's got pops. And it was like an old CB mic that I bought at the bins in Milwaukee. It's just like a piece of shit microphone, and it just sounds really cool. And I tried to clean it up, but it did not work.
And not just the tone, but I think something about the distant effect mixed with the incredible like vulnerability. There's a lot of emotion in that performance. It has a very cool effect, and yet I just remember hearing it going, this was the closer on the last record, right? So like, what was the decision there? Did you feel like not enough people heard Montgomery Park? I really want this song out there.
Yeah.
I want to try it again.
I'm trying to remember what the thought process was there. I mean, I think I kind of parted out a lot of that EP, that Haley and I did. And I think, I really thought that the main part of that should have just been the stuff that me and Haley did together, which is why I think I'm going to re-release it with just those
more
songs.
Of that focus.
Because, also the opening track on that was 12 years old or something. It's really, I've been trying to find a place for the original version of No Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
Because
that was redone too. It's almost a remix version of.
Well, and that was
song.
the first. That was the very original version, is the one with the organ and the megaphone. And it's because I was playing a show downtown, this festival, and it was opening for like Clap Your Hands and Say Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was told that I wasn't going to have a microphone at the show. Somebody told me that. So I rented a megaphone And then I got there, and they're like, "Oh, you have a microphone?" I was like, "Why the hell would somebody tell me?" So instead of like being like, "Can I talk to a manager?" I was like, "I'll just get a megaphone. It's fine. We'll make it work. It's
like,
art."
You know what? I'm going to take this home and record with it.
Well, so that's the thing. I had it for 24 hours. So that's what I did. But, I was very attached to the song. And, I mean, maybe someday it'll actually come out. I don't even know what you do with music anymore. It's like, if you don't have a store, if you don't have, now here's Spotify's under fire. I'm like,
I'm so happy about that.
I'm glad that someone's happy about it. I've already come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to make money, but I'd like to at least get some plays.
Yeah,
so
I'd like them to hear it.
Yeah, I'd like to have something happen, because that's all I've been focusing on with all these EPs and stuff, is trying to like grow an audience on Spotify.
Yeah,
which is difficult to say the least.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, we've talked a little bit about that,
Yeah.
and I have not adapted very well at all. I was so outspoken about it for so long that even when I did reluctantly put my releases up there, because people would be like, "Look, I bought your fucking CDs, but I do want to listen on this thing on my dashboard or whatever. I want to use the app." And so I finally did it. It's been up there for 3 years now or something, and I'll get those monthly emails that's like, "You have 27 listeners." I'm like, "Will you not fucking tell me that,
Yes.
please? I don't want to know that."
There are certain days I wake up and I go on there. I was like, "Oh, we're down 12 listeners."
Yeah, you're counting single digits. Like, oh fuck.
Got to check in on your aunt.
Yeah.
Make sure she hasn't passed away.
Speaking of these EPs, there was a period in 2004 where, as a fan, I felt like I was getting a front row seat to the creative process from John Frusciante.
Mm-hmm.
He released 6 albums in 6 months was the plan. It ended up stretching out like a little bit longer than that, but everything was recorded in like a few days, mixed in a day on site, wherever that one studio was. And they were all just kind of little, like, to use a television term, like it's a bottle episode. It's just like, we go to this one place for a weekend, we do all this stuff, and it's done, and we just release it that way in its natural form, right?
Love
and you have been on such a roll these last few months. It seems like you're kind of in a similar place. Actually,
that is the goal.
I made this note that the last record in that series was called Curtains, which is the name of the first record in your series you've been cranking out. And I was like, that's perfect. But was this a concept, like you had this idea, kind of like he set out to do?
Sure.
Or was this just like, man, I am writing a shitload right now. I need to find some way to get all these out.
I think it's the former. I think that, I really just planned. I just want to put material out there because I feel like I've spent a lot of time listening to other people tell me how to release music. And not that it wasn't good advice, and not that it isn't people that I love or whatever, but like, it's gotten to the point where I'm just like, I feel like I sat on songs for so long that they went bad in the can, you know? And I'm like, what's the point of making art if you're not going to put it out there? So I was like, I'm just going to just do this. And I think particularly, after I got back from Nashville, after my job dried up, and my grandpa died, and I was staying with my grandma, and I had time on my hands, and it's still fucking COVID, So I'm like, well, I'm not going to just sit here and not do anything. So I think that was a big part of it, and it's been really good. I feel like, not that this is a defining characteristic of success, but I make money when I release them, and it's it's
good.
Part of a. I'm trying to have enough dollars coming from different areas that eventually I get like a whole dollar.
Yeah,
but
I mean, if you can keep the cost down on the record,
because
that's my big problem. Is like, I can record all this stuff here, but a lot of times I get these grand ideas about what the vision is this time,
well,
and
sure,
whatever, and it ends up costing me thousands of dollars, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm never gonna ever make a quarter of that back.
I mean, I get that too. I mean, me and Michael sunk $20,000 some dollars into the last Domestics record that I think maybe moved 700 units. I mean, it was just miserable, and the only reason that we didn't have to pay for that is because The label
went under?
paid for it. Well, no, the label. It's a very long story, and I did sign an NDA. But anyway, it's the only
No
reason.
one's going to listen to this show.
It's the only reason I'm not fucking bankrupt. But anyway, it was just I've got to where it doesn't cost me anything to make records, so I'm just going to make records.
Yeah.
And put out records. So that's
great. That's freedom.
It's very Johnny Ramone. I'm just like, why do you need to go to a studio if you could just record it at home?
Yeah. It's very, very Jello Biafra.
Yeah.
Just start your own shit. Curtains has some great new songs, but again, we get a new version of a song from Montgomery Park, Temporarily Your Girl.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool because, in a way, we do these collaborative songs with people because, creatively they're very fulfilling to do. But when we go out as solo artists and perform, we have to play some alternate version of that song, right?
Yeah.
And so in a way, it felt to me as a listener as like, oh, you're kind of reclaiming the song of like, if you saw me play it though, it'd be more like this.
I've done a lot of versions of that song because I had some demo versions that I did before me and Haley started working together, and I had a very... there's at least 2 versions that will never be released where I just really tried something that didn't work. But
yeah,
basically that was originally going to be on Beauty Contest, and the version I made for that was such a mess that my buddy Justin Chase was like, dude, I can't do anything with this. I mean, It's all mid-range. This just sounded like trash, and he was right. So I went to my buddy Paul Axe's house, and he let me record on this amazing piano, and I just did the piano track, and then I just cut it when I was doing the track list for the album, so I had that laying
so it's
around.
just like a last minute.
That was just, I know. I make a lot of broad strokes when I'm under stress. It's not a great trait of mine. It's just something I do. I get what was it? I get squeamish. I'm just like, just throw it all away.
It reminds me of a session I did once with. Do you remember Robbie Lagamina? He's a great drummer.
Yeah.
We were doing an album of punk covers once, and it was one of the rare times where I was actually at somebody else's studio, and we blocked out a certain amount of time, and so we finished the record, but we had like an hour left, and so I was like, "Do you know any other songs?" Like we literally were just like, "What do we both know how to play?"
Yeah.
And so we just fucking made up more covers on the spot that weren't supposed to be on the album because it was just like, well, shit, we might as well, right? Just fucking squeeze a couple more songs on the record,
It's important. I've got to finish my coffee.
Yes. And sometimes the spontaneity does make it a little more fun because I don't know about you, but I get very serious about it and very focused and kind of have the tunnel vision of, especially once you're like halfway through making a record or whatever, then it's just like, there is no life outside of this room. I'm going to fucking finish this thing. It's going to be exactly what I need it to be. And so to break out of that a little bit can be a relief, kind of like.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that I can be both. I think generally I have fun, but like, it is like a thing that I do every day. I work on it, especially with recording stuff. I'm just like, this is what I'm doing. This is kind of like going to the office. I'm treating it like a job.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid peanuts, but I mean, it's like I'm very serious about it. But anytime I'm in a studio with other people, it's way fun. And I take it way less seriously. But I think that, there's a lot of, I have to edit out all of the swears and stuff between takes where, it's like something distorts in an unpleasant way. And you're just like, why do I get out of bed? Why am I here?
I was just talking to Evan last night, was doing some vocals on this punk record. And it was like, I think his first real take of the song. And, he was warming up his scream and it was starting to sound real good. And then there's one line where he went for it, and it was just a full-on voice crack. And I was, I just let the tape roll, and I was like, oh, yeah, keep going, whatever, do the rest of the song. And, when we listened to playback, of course, we're cracking up about it, and I was like, man, I'd be embarrassed to do that in front of someone who wasn't a hardcore singer and like who didn't know, like, oh yeah, that's what happens when you abuse your fucking vocal cords.
Yeah.
But I said, dude, this would be the best thing on social media. Like, I should sign up for like fucking TikTok or something and just put up compilations of the outtakes. Only put up the shit out of context completely.
Yeah.
Just have a guy going like, "You mother," you know, like just that.
Yeah.
Or something, or all the times where something goes wrong.
It's a great idea.
I used to save those things. They were really funny.
Blooper reels, man.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know?
If you had that,
sometimes
that's just
they're
studio.
funnier than the movie.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. That could be the funniest stuff. The second one is Encore,
Yeah.
which is a very nice, calm record. It's kind of a quiet acoustic vibe. I wonder, were those songs written together at the same time for that, or was it more just like, ooh, you know, I have a couple other mellower songs that maybe these would work well together. Like
That was all written, I think, at the same time. I mean, one of the songs, Waiting, was written and rewritten a number of times, but that definitely felt like it was made for that. I was really going for James West plays drums on that with all those little brushy, jazzy things. Really, he crushed it. And I think I had a Fender Rhodes at the time. I don't know. I feel like it really has that sort of David Lynch kind of thing going on with it. And I think I just leaned into it really hard.
Yeah, it's a really nice sounding record. And,
Thanks.
And, you know, we've talked a lot about production and recording in different places and what, you know, what works and doesn't. But something that strikes me about your releases is that some seem like more intentionally lo-fi and some sound cleaner. Because sometimes you're recording in different studios and we'll do some songs here, some songs there, right? And they'll all be on the same album. When you're tracking someplace, is it important to you that they have like vintage equipment that's going to have that sound, or is it something that they more do in post to like, okay, we want to mix these in that certain way? Because there's not a lot of like super wide frequency response, a lot of high end, a lot of low end. You know, it's very much still that 60s kind of vibe. Like, is that a consideration when you go into a place, or is that just kind of naturally how they come out?
I was always really into the vintage stuff, and I still love it. You know, I think it's great. But as I've matured, no, I'm just kidding. As I've become less and less pretentious over the years, I feel like, you know, I love the Rhodes. It's one of the favorite instruments. You know, it is my favorite instrument. But do not care if it's a fake Rhodes on my album, because I mean, it's one of the easiest sound waves to emulate. The only way you're going to tell that it's fake is that it's in tune. I mean, you know, it's like, it's ridiculous, you know, and it's like, you know, it'd be great if we could all afford to have a Mellotron, but you know, what like 6 of them exist? Who knows? You know, I mean, I'm sure someone knows, but you know what I'm saying? Like, just give me the Nord patch. It sounds awesome, you know. It does what it needs to do. So I think I've become more utilitarian about it, but as far as fidelity, definitely went intentionally lo-fi on Beauty Contest, on the tracks that, especially because I was having trouble mixing them. I was like, you know what, Guided by Voices worked, right? Why don't we just try that? And
or Needle Exchange. I mean, that's a great example.
That was
too,
definitely
you know?
intentionally lo-fi and really leaning into that Elliott Smith heroin Portland vibe. You know? But I think that Curtains was trying to be higher fidelity.
Yeah,
but
and that comes through.
Nice.
It sounds
but
really
I really
good.
lean into, especially with acoustic guitars, I definitely like to crunch them up with a compressor. And I think that's... but yeah, Encore was definitely really going for a higher fidelity. And I think that as they progress, I think the EPs are getting better sonically. I'm really trying to improve my game. I'm really working on my stereo spread because, again, I'm self-taught.
Yeah.
And everything I've learned, I've been watching other people do for years and being like, wait, that's all you did? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way when you're DIY. It's like you hire someone to do your video enough times and it's like, you know, I know how to do this now.
Yeah.
You know, or
Plug
whatever
and
the
play.
thing is, you know, it's just like, yeah, I could do that, you know.
Dude, people love amateur too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking porn? Or, sorry. Okay. I think you're right because there was a gap where you put one out into December, and I went to listen to it, and I was like, wait, there's another one that I missed? And so I went back and listened to that, and I was telling you at the time, like, man, these sound great. Like the instrumentation, the layering, the experimentation, like I can feel that these are inspired records. It's not just like, okay, I'm releasing the vaults of all the crap. You know, it's like, it's like,
and
no,
I did
feel it.
consider that. I did consider that. But,
Dude, I have too, because we're all sitting on piles of shit that it's like,
yeah.
I mean, they're fine. They
Yeah.
could go out, right? Like,
you can polish the turd. And
I wanted to
make a
ask
buck.
about, in that run, there's several EPs, but there's one single
oh yeah,
that didn't belong, I guess. So until Nothing Ever Hurts.
yeah.
Great song.
Thanks.
Brings back kind of the bigger rock instrumentation.
I got a good story about it.
Okay. And I just wanted to observe that the bass line in the song, did you play it?
Yes.
Reminds me, and I couldn't place the song exactly, but the vibe of like, and I mean this in a complimentary way, it's an album I love, the very first Coldplay record.
Nice.
Because they had a really cool counter melody going on that early stuff.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as I heard it, I was like, ooh, yeah, that kind of took me back a little bit. I don't know.
I like Coldplay. I mean,
Yeah.
that was it. Yellow. That song's tight as hell.
Yeah, that album. Mhm.
Yeah. I like that. I got no qualms with Chris Martin and his shenanigans.
So how did this come to be like a one-off single instead of part of one of these projects?
So there's a Domestics EP that's coming out sometime this year.
Ooh.
And that was originally a Domestics song.
Okay.
And basically, when I was mastering the EP, the version that me and Mike took my demo, and then he retracked drums and all this stuff and sang on it. And but when he put it to bed, there was some gain stage. There was some issues. So the moment I tried to bring it up to level, it just was woofing. You know?
No.
And we had there's no way we're going to find the multi-track and actually go through all that. So I was like, well, let's just scrap it from that. So then I just had my original version, and I was like, this sounds great.
Yeah.
I mean, okay,
Why
great.
not?
Great's a bit, this sounds.
Oh, it sounds good.
This
It
sounds
does.
passable. But I mean, so that's just my drums on there. And you know what? I think it's vibey, and I just thought it was a. So then I was like, oh, maybe I should save this. And I was like, fuck it, just like put something out. And I put it out for free to thank the people who actually have been supporting. Thank you for supporting my music.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yes, yeah. Smash that like button.
Follow
bro.
me on Instagram.
Yeah. I'm on Dogpile. I'm on MySpace. See you there.
Pure Volume. You can download all my new songs.
Yeah. Indie Nation. Wait, what is it? Yeah, there's a lot of them. A lot of defunct.
We're old, guys.
Yeah,
That's what we're saying.
What are you going to do? I remember when the internet was just a lot of beep, boop, beep, boop, boop.
I would have like, you'd go to a website, and it's just like a shitty Angel Fire webpage or whatever, right?
Bring it back.
But then there was the gradual striped appearance of a single photo. It would be like you get the top 10%,
totally. Yeah.
the next 10%,
Yeah.
and it would take like 5 minutes to load a picture of something.
Yeah.
If you're 12, you got to hope that loads in time before your parents walk into the room.
Yeah. Well,
Let's see what you're looking at.
Most of my internet experience growing up was at friends' houses because, when I was raised by grandparents.
Yeah.
And I don't think we got a family computer until very late. So
Yeah.
So it was the internet was very new to me. Once MySpace came around, I was like, oh, this is just what it is. That's,
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I was just remembering this stuff because a week or so ago was the 20th anniversary of the second EPD record.
Yeah, I saw
my
that.
high school band. And I was, I took it off the shelf, was looking at it, popped it in, and I'm like, man, I used to do these album layouts on Microsoft Paint.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's
Like,
awesome.
Whatever you're doing
Oh.
is committing. You have no tools. It's just fucking.
Sometimes that's where the art comes from, the limitations.
Yeah.
That's, I think Brian Eno talks about that a lot, that maybe it was, I don't know, some pretentious guy was just like, that the faults in the medium become the aesthetic, it's like people love that, like with photos, right? It's just like, then we got Instagram and you can make like, hey, would you like to make your photo look shittier? Be like, yes, please.
Sure would.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Actually, it looks a little, get rid of some of this, maskne or what.
Dude, I do the same thing all the time in audio for samples, especially because, like, if you're making a rap record, you don't want your sample to sound too good. Or if you're playing something live and you want it to sound like a sample, I'll run it through these like vinyl simulators or something where it's like, let's choose 1940s for that guitar.
It's
awesome.
And that's
I
love
cool.
That. I wish I had filters. So like I don't have any filters, and this is just because I don't know how to upload them or steal them or whatever. But so like I have a very limited amount of that stuff. But I mean, everyone loves a filtered thing. Like look at the fucking Strokes. Their whole career is just based off of filtering. I mean, also granted, writing good material and being rich to begin with, but like
that helps.
Really were able to lean in. With
I think that's
filters.
where you and I may have failed, was that, we had the good material. We had the consistency and the drive. We didn't have the nest egg. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have some capital. What are you going to do? I mean, the thing is that it's just such a shit show, too, because, I mean, like, think of like Screaming Lord Sutch or something. He was like fucking Duke or some shit, and like had Jimmy Page and all these motherfuckers play on his album. Nobody wanted it because he was shit, So it's like yes.
I don't know who he is, but I relate to him.
Yeah, but it's like sometimes there's certain things you can't buy, and that's likability, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think
that's what I grapple with most. Is like that last record was great. And like I'm writing some of the best shit ever, and I'm like, right, yeah, but it's me. Like I've actually toyed with the idea of anonymously releasing music that I don't personally promote through my own channels, and I never post a picture of who it is. And so it's just like some other people might find this and not know that I'm kind of a dick and be like, oh yeah, I like this. This is cool. Who is this?
But then you don't get to hide behind your personality. It's like that is the thing. And it's like, oh, but then they don't like it. They're like, wait, people like me for my personality? It just creates a whole
That
other...
can't be right.
Yeah, no, trying to turn on the charm, it's difficult. I feel like a pretty charming person, but at least when I feel comfortable. But I mean, I've seen me in interviews, and I'm just like, ugh. Who gave the mic to that schmuck?
I remember, speaking of old interviews and EPD, we were on that public access show, Unseen TV.
Yeah, the anarchists. We used to prank call them all the time.
Well, the funny thing was, I was furious with my bandmates because, I've always been very serious about this shit. Wanted, to get the music out there. It's like, dude, we have a chance to be on. It's a shitty little TV show, but people did watch it, and it was like, okay, well, they're gonna come and film us play. We'll do an interview. Like, this will be great, right? And the whole time they just treated it like some fucking bullshit band practice, like goofing off and joking the whole time. And I'm trying to answer serious questions. And like years later, I would meet people at work or something, or other musicians at shows, and they'd be like, wait a second, I know you, right? You guys were that fucking band. I saw you on that public access. You guys were assholes. I hated you guys. I'm like, motherfuckers.
Some things he never gets to live down. I got plenty of them, man.
Oh, man. Yeah. Now, the third EP in this series is, again, this kind of cyclical, like, all these records are connected. It's called Born Again and Again, which is the first track on Needle Exchange.
Yeah. I'm going to reuse that name until something sticks, man. But it is also the concept. That album is very much, I think I wrote a lot of that in Nashville. And I was really going on the spiritual journey. Spent my whole life as an atheist, just trying to read some spiritual shit, see if there's anything to shake out. Read a lot of Joseph Campbell and all that, and my girlfriend said the other day, she said something about baptism by fire or something like that, and I was like, that's I've never heard that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And, so that was definitely like trying to, I really had to make sense of a lot of things after I left Portland, so that was all about that, I think. So
that is insightful because, some of the lyrical content moving forward, I could see tying into that quest, the song Unofficially Heaven I was going to point out because that's not being as much of a multi-instrumentalist as you are. My go-to was always the like oohs and ahs and adding vocal layers of not just harmony, but counter melody and just textural stuff, because I'm kind of a blunt instrument with the guitar and the and the bass, and I would need something to fill it out. And so you always had these synths and organs and things like that to round out your sound. And I was like, oh shit, this is cool though, because I don't hear a lot of him doing these like falsettos. That was a pleasant surprise to me.
So I think I ran out of instruments because again, Skeleton Crew, trying to flesh these songs out and like,
oh fuck, I sold that keyboard? Damn it.
Definitely. Yeah, well, it's like I think the collection I have right now is I have an Optagon, which is a completely ridiculous instrument made by Mattel in the 70s that sounds really cool twice a year. And then won't stay in tune to save its life. But
hey, you mentioned renting a megaphone overnight. I've had one for 15 years. I use it maybe once every 5.
But when you use it, it's there. Yeah. I did that with some claves a while back. I think that I got them from Justin King. He was moving, and I was like, will you take these? I was like,
I've had these for 10 years. Might as well try them.
Yeah, would you like to throw these away for me? and I used them on, I can't remember the song, one of those, I think it's on that record. But yeah, just like little things, you especially when you're digging through so I guess to answer your question, when you start digging through the bottom of the drawer and you can't find a harmonica that's in the right key.
Fuck it, I'll just sing it.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck it, we'll do it live. But then I kind of leaned into it. I was like, oh, that's cool. That was pleasant. I think I was going for Big Star, if you remember that band.
Mm-mm.
They do a lot of that like spacey sort of Leslie backing vocals. Yeah. I think it's a cool sound. But
I mean, I fell in love with that stuff, tying back to earlier when I really got into John Frusciante, because the Chili Peppers had put out that By the Way album that was just like smeared with backup vocals, when he was on this big like Brian Wilson tip, and I was just like in love with it, and that was right before he dropped a solo album and then that series of 6 where he's doing that shit on everything, even on the stripped down ones. And so I was just like, this is the way, like for me and my skill set and my songwriting sensibility is like, this is the best trick that I should have been using all along.
It's the original instrument.
Yeah. I fell in love with that. I always love to hear those little bits come back in tasteful ways, like especially if you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to run this through an amp, or I'm going to do something really unorthodox with it to make it exciting.
Yeah, I love it when like the unorthodox thing becomes the orthodox thing.
Yeah.
So now it's like, because people have been doing that so long, like, it'll be like, now it's like totally unaffected vocals, just no reverb, just like,
Yeah.
That's the homework.
Now, tell me if I'm projecting here.
Sure.
But we're talking about these spiritual songs and listening to Pasture in the Sky.
Okay, very specific thing about that song.
Okay, and I'm curious to know, because when I hear it, we all assign our own lives to these songs, and what they mean to us. But it was less of a like Spirit in the Sky sort of like celebratory song, and it was almost like because you're saying like, I don't want to get old, I don't want to die, I just want to go to the pasture in the sky or whatever, wherever the.
It's much sadder.
It's a bad paraphrase, but I feel like this song is saying like, look, guys, I'm not suicidal per se, but I'm fucking over this shit. And that to me is such a relatable thing of like anyone who's had depression and anxiety and gets stuck in these cycles of where you're thinking about this stuff all the time. Not to the extent that you're going to make action, about it or whatever.
I don't have a plan.
But exactly. Yeah. That's what the therapist says. If you know how, that's when you have a problem.
Yeah.
But like, it's a very universal, almost pleasant way of having that conversation. It's like when a comedian makes a really dark joke so you can laugh at a thing and then let's talk about it.
Takes the teeth out of it.
Yeah.
So very interesting thing. Those lyrics are actually lifted from a Truman Capote book.
Really?
Yeah. So basically, and this is the nerd in me, this song was in there. It was, Moon River is in the original Breakfast at Tiffany's, right?
Is that the, like, old song that like Bobby Darin would sing and like
Andy Williams did it.
okay, yeah, I know what you're talking
River,
about. Yeah.
wider than a mile. Yeah. So that song, basically, that song was written, I think, by Mancini. But in the book, there was the song. It had no melody, obviously, because it's text. And it was just, she would sit on a balcony and play this song. I just want to go traveling through the pastures of the sky.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that is so hauntingly sad.
Yeah.
And I was like, and so I was listening to a lot of Judy Sill at the time, if you ever listened to any of her stuff. And I think she's from Portland originally, but like 60s. And I kind of just made this little folk song around that. I even tried to do her sort of Texas Northwest sort of vocal inflections a little bit. Just one of my favorite songwriters. I was just like, let's do this, because I feel like she had a very Holly Golightly sort of life herself. So I just thought that it was, so that was, I wrote that song on a day where I wrote 10 other songs.
Wow.
So that was the end of the day. Basically, I had these friends, and they were all like having these songwriting contests with each other where they would all work all day and be like, write as many songs as you can. And they would never invite me because I wrote too many songs.
And you're like, oh, really, assholes? Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
So that was like, fuck you guys. I'm going to go play with my own fucking Tonka trunk in the dirt. And, so that was like the end of the day. And that was, I think, one of the only songs that survived that. I think another song off of that became a domestic song, but yeah.
That's cool. Kind of a double homage song coming out of this like marathon writing binge.
Yeah. And I'd always thought about that. So it was just kind of like the end of the day, I was like, I need to get 10 songs. And sometimes the last one's the best one,
Talking in Your Sleep
Yeah.
is a very pretty song. Hardly Here, I felt, which closes it out, could stylistically be an outtake from Montgomery Park. Like that.
Yeah, it's definitely in that same field.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely, it sounds a lot like a domestic song to me, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. We write so much and for so long that you can kind of be like, ooh, that's a 2017 Leo.
Yeah.
It's like, what year is this? Swirl it around in the glass.
In 2017, it was a very good year. So Hardly Here. I think that I'm such a big fan of that anthemic chorus. I love the Pixies, I love that 1-4-5 thing. I think it's great. And I mean, they didn't originate it. I mean, it's an old gospel trick, but it's just such a powerful progression. Why fight it?
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing, you spend all fucking day working on a chord progression, like trying to reinvent the fucking wheel. And then you're like, oh, this is just a Sam Cooke song. Or you know what I mean? It's just like
sometimes it doesn't need it.
Sometimes it just doesn't. Well, sometimes you the farther you push it, sometimes you end up exactly where you started anyway. So it's like, I mean, there's a reason that intervals exist. It's like it is math. I don't care.
Well, yeah, it is. And for someone who is prolific, speaking of myself, I do have a harder time writing those type of songs, like on my acoustic guitar, because when I'm thinking of like chord progressions for my band, so often my goal is like, okay, we never repeat, and it never resolves the way you think it should. So it's like, okay, we're going to add this extra flat in here. We're going to add this key change here. We're going to do this. This one's not going to run 4 times. It's going to run 3.5. And so there is a math to our formula in how we put those together. And I think I get so locked into that and so locked into writing really complicated lyric patterns and stuff for hip hop. It's very hard for me to then sit down and simplify something like that. But you're right, because sometimes you overthink those and you just play the fucking chords. And get out of your own way.
Yeah, get out of the song's way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm almost more intimidated to write like that.
Well, and I
just
think
3 or 4 chords or something.
I think that it is also just an example of being what I have at the time. If all I have is a guitar and everything's in storage, I'm going to just have to make guitar songs, and I'm not going to turn into a tappy acoustic guitar player. No, nothing against math rock, you know.
You making fun of Justin King now?
I love Justin. I'm gonna see him. I'm gonna see him on Sunday.
Oh, great.
I'm just saying that it's too late for me to become. And he also has done so many amazing records that are not that. You know, I feel like that King Radio record was phenomenal. Anyway, I'm definitely not making fun of him, but I think that you just got to let it be what it is, because I think that there's no point in fighting it, because it's just it's either going to be what it is or it's going to be a bad version of what it was.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Heart Club is the most recent EP. And I just want to underscore this. This is 4 EPs and a single in 2.5 months. And you're not done yet.
I was recording up until the minute I left.
You're like, I had to stop
to
come here and do this shit.
You're like, well, I had to tune my bongos anyway, but I guess I can come down.
But yeah, that's so impressive. You're on such a roll right now. I feel like this one is probably most similar out of the 4 to Encore.
Stripped downy vibes.
Exactly. Songs like Stations or Only a Song Can Break My Heart. I'll leave it at that. What was the direction for the last record here?
So that was all written in 2 weeks, and that was all written and recorded in 2 weeks. And basically, it's a love letter to my girlfriend when we'd started dating. She lives in L.A. I live here. And,
I saw you doing the commute a little.
Yeah, it's a long drive. So I'm making it again next week, but it's...
I'll sleep in your trunk and go to the studio. I'm like, hey, we're getting our record mix down there.
Yeah, we're gonna we'll Thelma Louise it into into Hollywood Boulevard there. And my buddy James, who's played on a number of the records we're talking about, was going to do some drums on it, but I just thought it was such a personal record that I just did it all myself. And I was like, this is a very succinct, thing for somebody,
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it was just all came, in that time. A very inspired time. I mean, so basically, I'll talk more about what's next, but that's what I have to say about that. It's a very special record to me, and she was very happy to receive that.
I think that's really neat. There are only a few projects of mine that I've not released, and 2 of them are things that I made for Ange.
Yeah.
There was Songs I Sing With You in Mind, which was some covers and originals, and then years later, I did a part 2, which is, again, different covers and different originals, and so those things are kind of like, well, you have the only one of that, and it just,
I think that would have
goes
been
in your room.
I think that if I hadn't been on this mad dash to put out material, maybe I would have been like, hey, this is special for you. But
I'm glad that it is out there, because the songs are great. There's no reason why someone else wouldn't love to hear it, so...
Yeah, I'm happy with it. The thing is, I've never written love songs. I feel like everything I've ever written is a lament. It's some chanson.
It's so easy to write when you're sad or when you're pissed off or whatever.
It's definitely a stretch for
hard.
me. And I feel like I'm sure there are a couple lines. I remember, so I talk about like how I make broad strokes right before something comes out, or I upload something or whatever. And I was talking to Tanya about it, and I was like, I sent her this list. I was thinking about making these lyric changes. And she was like, I love all of the lyrics that you already saw. Why are you doing this? And then I tried singing them, and I was just like, oh, God, that's clunky. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? I just get, I get antsy. I get like, anytime you commit... I mean, it's like, it's not really going to wax. I mean, I'm uploading with DistroKid. I mean, it doesn't
pull it down if
exactly. You want. It's like, why am I getting so precious about everything? But there's just, I think that's just something that you have. I mean, it's good to be mindful, but I mean, I just have a big habit of like the moment it comes up and being like, God, I should have used a different reverb on that,
Yeah, totally.
And that's the other thing. It's also putting out, writing and recording a record in 2 weeks, mixing it, mastering it.
Yeah,
doing all of it yourself, I think it turned out pretty great. But it's like
fucking A.
But it's like the only mistake I made is that Tanya's song is actually a little bit louder than the rest, and that was just a mastering mistake on my end. But
I mean, I think that it's a very powerful tool to box yourself in that way, because I am big on the revision process. You know, I think of everything in terms of writing and production. Always. They're inextricable from each other. People will be like showing me something, and you know, they see my fucking head go off and my eyes pointing up or whatever, and they're like, "Stop listening to production. Listen to the fucking song." I'm like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah.
You know, or like, "Yeah, but see what they did with the pre-chorus.
Yeah,
They should have halved it the first time and then do it." You know, like I'm just always thinking of that shit.
Listen to the 300K, man. What are they doing there? I mean, just
Yeah, exactly. I'm always thinking of that
fucking
shit.
taking a mud bath.
I'm always thinking of that shit. And so to put yourself in an environment where you can't overthink is kind of great.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
I was going for like South Park, you know, they do like an episode in a week.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just one of those things where it was just like every day there was another song. And, you know, so it was an experiment to see how fast I can work. And also just being very inspired by that moment of falling in love, which is probably the best feeling you ever get to have, you know.
Yeah, and on that note, you sent me a couple previews of the next project. So we have the song Louisville and the song Happy Birthday from Nashville. Is this a record, and this could be coincidence, but was this a record that was written on the road?
This was, I think so. Most of this was written in Nashville. A lot of it was recorded in Nashville. So basically, I think I'm actually going to make it an actual album. And
Full length?
Yeah, there's just enough material there. Basically, I'm at this point now where it's like, well, I could just release the 5 songs, but then there's like a couple other songs that are good.
And where would they go?
And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do like part 2. You know?
Yeah.
Like, be like, by the way, these ones were, you know, it's like that Pink Floyd record, The Final Cut. They're like the songs that were left over from the wall that weren't as good.
Yeah.
And it's remembered as such, and it plays kind of like that. But,
Yeah.
you know, but I think they're great. So I've been carving it out, and I had a lot of like, there's a lot of gospel stuff on it. There's a cover of Lamb's Blood, Washed Me Clean by Arizona Drains. It's going to be on there. I played a mandolin. I mean, like,
Really?
I'm really leaning in. This is a very specific.
Did I mention it was in Nashville?
Yes, yeah. Is this on? Yeah. So I mean, I went down there to check it out, and I was studying the Civil War at the time. I didn't know anything. I'd only been through the South once in my life before, and ended up down there, and I was like really interested in the culture, and it was interesting to go during pandemic, and you know, there was just a lot of looking in at the world and feeling separate, and it wasn't like Paul Simon or something going to Africa, you know. I don't have any grand illusions that I have some grandiose vision for the South or anything like that, but I thought
It's more like McCartney going overseas and getting robbed. Is that?
Yeah. I think it was when I got locked up in Japan for a joint. I think that was was that also McCartney? You know, I mean, that's the thing, though. It's like so many of my songs about traveling is because I don't have a fucking set home, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's very nomadic because it is, and it's like, so then it's like, you know, sometimes I'll look at a song and I'd be like, man, how many times are you going to use the word bus? I'm like, I've been on a lot of fucking buses, man.
I mean, what I find interesting about your songwriting is that everything I write is first person, and you so often will write through a character or through another town or something like that that's more got a literary quality to it or something. It's
more
they're stories, you
narrative, yeah. So I'm really focused on narrative writing right now, especially on this next record, and I think that there's a song. The album's going to be called Decoration Day, and that's going to be the. I think it's the best song on the record, but it's a story about someone. You know, It's really what I wanted to try and do, and I think that was part of because I was studying beyond the Civil War stuff, just like the history of country music and gospel and all this, and just how much of that is just extrapolated from the Bible, and you know, then I read a bunch of, you know, there's a lot of. I'm really leaning into traditional style because it's not. I want to say this like in not a stupid way. I don't know if I can do that. I felt like I just didn't have any attachment to the history of the goings on of the chronology of music, and I just felt like getting some perspective was nice to try and come at it from a different angle. You know, I felt like when I was in the Domestics, it started to be like writing the same song, you know, is be like, well, what are the National doing? You know? And even though the Domestics did not make much money, there was this idea. It's like we had a manager, we had all this stuff, and it's like everything was taken so seriously to the point that it wasn't fun anymore. And what is the reason that I do music? And I think the reason I do music is because I love music and I love the history of music. I think that's been the baptism of the Nashville experience for me, and I realized that I don't want to live in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Even though I have to say I made some of the greatest friends of my life down there, you know, but overall, I remember the day that I decided that I was leaving because my job was going on hiatus, my grandpa was sick, and I had to either find a new place. Anyway, it was just a perfect storm with all that.
Yeah.
I was just walking up to the store, and I tried smiling at my neighbors, and I had so many sneers. I was just like, "Fuck you guys too, man." You know, so I didn't get to have that. Like
you don't want me
like,
either.
Well, it's you know what I mean. The other thing is East Nashville, which was the hip part, got destroyed by a fucking tornado. You know, the year before I got there, or you know, it was also pandemic, and I mean. So I didn't get to have the going out to shows and stuff. And I mean, I ran into, you remember Jake Lessick?
From...
I mean, he was in the scene. Maybe he was a little younger than us. I played some music with him. Anyway, so first day in downtown, I'm walking down the street. I just put some money in the meter. I'm walking down the street into like, you know, Broadway, where it's like, no one wearing a mask. I was like, yeah. So I hear someone yell Leo, and I was like, there's no fucking way. So I just kept walking, right? You know, and then I get a tap on the shoulder. It's fucking Jake, and he's like, holy shit, man, what's going on? I was like, oh, I just moved here, man. He's like, he's got his guitar in his hand, and he's a country singer.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, I'm going to Kid Rock's Honky Tonk to play a set right now. And he's like, come in and see it.
First of all, that is a great sentence, but go on.
Yeah, but and I love Jake, and he's a sweetheart of a man. And he's like, dude, I can get you a job here. You can do this. You know, it's like, you know, I gotta go. And I was like, and I thanked him graciously because it was a very sweet offer. But I mean, I was still like, I was getting my groceries delivered because I was so fucking scared of the, you know, of the variants or what. I mean, and I tell you what, it's safer to not wear a mask in Tennessee because people will fight you. I mean, it's
get in your face.
I mean, if you're in the wrong part of the state, if you're in fucking Chattanooga or some shit, just you know, it's risk ratios, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't take him up on that, but it was really sweet. The first minute I'm in town, I see somebody I've known for 20 years.
Dude, that actually happened to me a couple years ago. Right before everything shut down, I had gone to a Comic-Con in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. I was standing outside waiting for my Uber, and this car drives by and goes, Sammy! And I'm like, I've never been to this city before. You know, like I've toured in Texas, but I've never been there before. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And I like look, and the car's slowing down, and it's my old friend Sean from here. Yeah. I ended up talking to him. He's like, yeah, I just moved out here. Like, oh, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing when you're on the road, when you get to see somebody unseen like that. Yeah. That happened to me in Austin, actually.
It feels good.
I ran into a guy who was living, I hadn't seen him in years. I was like, holy shit. I mean, what an amazing... I mean, the thing is, I guess that is the other thing, though. It's like epicenters, right? I mean, like, if you ran into somebody in the Dalles, or something like that is miraculous.
True.
Because, but I will say, but it is kind of an outpost, San Antonio. Yeah. That is a weird one. I'll give you that. Like, if I was in Clarksville and I ran into somebody I knew, I'd be like, this is cosmic.
Well, I like the direction of this project. You said it's Decoration Day, is that right?
Decoration Day.
It's neat because if we're constantly releasing music, and we've been doing so for so many years and decades at this point, that if you are not trying to experiment and... like, we don't want to make the same record over and over, and so sometimes that means going deeper within ourselves or trying another sound or whatever. But I like that you're actually taking like a real, almost academic approach to like, I'm going to just submerge myself in all this other culture and this other history and come up with something different. Because when I talk about craft as like a lyricist, I'm talking about using your thesaurus every time. I'm talking about if you're going to speak on a subject that you're watching documentaries and reading the books before you speak on it and not just giving your, talking head opinion or something like that. And that's what I do. Like if I put out a topical thing, it's impeccably researched. I'm talking hours and hours and hours and months a lot of times going into one of those type of songs. And so I really respect when you're talking about like, I moved to the other side of the country. I did all this extra reading, and like you're putting something into that record, a different type of investment. It's like you're not putting money into it. You're not, like necessarily putting in those hours in the studio, but that time you're spending is going to make that record unique.
Yeah.
People might not think of any of that stuff when they ever hear music.
Not at all. Probably not.
Like,
it's amazing when I talk to people I've been playing music with for years. I remember I was talking to my buddy Brad, and he was like, "Man, I love your lyrics. I never knew them when we were in the band together." Yeah, I can't. He's
focusing on playing his parts, probably.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's he's got to keep up with my chicken picking or whatever. Yeah, so I mean, it isn't like I'm not gonna mansplain the Civil War or anything on this record, but having that context.
I think those were all dudes. You can probably get away with that.
Yeah. I mean, so let me just say here that the Civil War was about slavery, just in case anybody
states' rights.
Yeah,
to have slaves.
Exactly. Yeah, so I mean,
just to counter that argument.
So I only had to get through 10 hours of the Ken Burns doc to find that out. I was like, I think I could have guessed, but it does help to have that proof.
Yeah.
But man, it's amazing because I was my buddy next door when I was living down there. Is a good old boy. His name's Greg. He's a great guy. Very different backgrounds, me and him, but there were certain things we get talking about, and he was pretty progressive for being for being from where he's from. But there were certain things where he was just like, I was like, oh man, we're just real different, on some of this stuff.
Like, you know what?
But
it's been good hanging. I will see you tomorrow.
I'll be like,
I gotta
hey,
go.
let's put a pin in this one and never talk about it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that.
Yeah.
Well, shit, man.
Yeah,
you're on a hell of a roll right now.
Thank you.
I'm digging it. I respect the grind and like I said, the thoughtful approach to it. When can we expect this record to drop? Is that going to be a little while out, or are you still rapid fire?
I want to finish it up this weekend.
Oh,
and
wow.
I think
so. Before I can even edit this episode,
no,
it'll be old news.
I'm definitely gonna do the pre-roll. So on I don't know how much this thing is. It's like you post it to Spotify, and they're like, well, if you give us 4 weeks, we'll shop it to these playlists, and then maybe the playlist will like what you do. I don't know I haven't noticed any improvement when I do that. But I think I might. I don't know. And part of me, I think, and this is probably just me being grandiose, but I was like, I'd love to shop it to a label, but I mean, I have very little to offer a label besides
great songs.
Well, yeah, but do you think a label cares about fucking songs? I'm just saying, like.
Well, hey, maybe we'll circle back to what you were saying earlier and be like, hey, this is my new record. I really hope, you guys like it. Or I can write stuff like this for your people.
Yeah, well, I think so. I guess to also say, I think that my main goal, especially if I end up moving to LA, which is it seems imminent at this point, is I'm not planning on shopping myself as a singer-songwriter. I would like to write
crop
songs
off the
for
singer
people.
part. And
yes, I just
songwriter.
I'm song boy.
It's song boy. Yeah, Leo London, song boy. A new autobiography.
BOI.
Oh God,
song boy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, that'll be my TikTok handle.
All right, that is our show. Huge thanks to Leo for coming back on. He has a ton of new music. If you want to check it out, you can do so on your streaming app or go to leolondon.bandcamp.com and Any money you spend there will go straight to his pocket. If you want to support this show, take a screenshot, post that to your stories, and let people know that we're out here. You can give us a 5-star rating and review. We'd appreciate that. I might have to pause for a brief moment, but I have recorded episode 100 with a very special guest. I just need to fill in 97 through 99. So I'm working on that. Bear with me if I do have to go off air for a brief moment. I'm going to leave you with the premiere of a new song from the forthcoming album, Decoration Day. This is Leo London, Happy Birthday from Nashville.
Happy birthday from Nashville. Hope everything's alright. It's been such a long time since I went swimming at night. A couple of friends are called up, coming out tonight. The Cumberland River under the city's lights. Here's to you and here's to me, everything that you wanted me to be. Pick up the pen, oh, pick up the phone. It's always nice to hear from home. When I get back, we'll all go swimming. Every night I forgive you. Every night I pray. The anger I hold on to will someday wash away. But happy birthday from Nashville. I won't be here long. It's too hard to call you, so it's here in a song. Here's to you and here's to me, everything that you wanted me to be. Pick up the pen or pick up the phone. It's always nice to hear from home. When I get back, we'll all go swimming. When I get back, we'll all go swimming.
Blueprint, Illogic, Superstition, Gift of Gab. My name is Sammy Warm Hands, and these are just a few of the iconic voices featured on my double album, Figures of Speech, available now at take92.com and strangefamous.com. Do you miss live music and going on tour? Check out my new book, How to Ruin Your Life, The Daily Grind of a DIY Tour. The book chronicles nearly a decade of underground tours with artists like DJ Abilities and Christoph Crane. With a foreword by Carnage the Executioner, this book is a must-have for rap fans who want a peek behind the scenes. The book is available now at take92.com and strangefamous.com. For even more behind-the-scenes content, subscribe to the Take 92 podcast for interviews with artists from Sage Francis to Jello Biafra. This is Sammy Warm Hands from Crush Kill Recordings and Take 92 Music.